The most important moment for India's G20 presidency is here, and what we are looking at is 2 days of packed negotiations between world leaders. All of them have already arrived at the national capital. We are at Bharat Mandapam, the venue that will host the most important meeting of the 18th G20 presidency. Now, what we also understand is, of course, there are some sticking areas. One is, of course, the language that will be used to describe the war or the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Now, this was also a problem, a point of contention in the Bali Declaration. Remember that Russia has been saying that the ground situation has changed, while China has maintained that G20 is not the forum to discuss geopolitical issues. Now, the same issue has also cropped up in India's G20 presidency. What we understand is that Sherpas have tried their best. The Manisad meeting of Sherpas ended yesterday, but this area, paragraph 3 and 4, famously called what Russia's intervention, Russia-China combined intervention was, to disagree on the language used by the West grouping to talk about the aggression of Russia vis-a-vis Ukraine's ways to defend itself. So that disagreement is going to play out, and of course, while it has the potential to basically disturb the leaders' declaration, what I also understand that the role of the leaders, the intervention of the leaders, the state heads and the heads of the government is going to be critical here. That is what sources are telling us. What we also understand from our sources is that the disagreement on climate action, developed countries had to fulfill some of their commitments on the Paris agreements, especially with regard to keeping the global warming levels at pre-industrial levels. Now, that is something that developing countries have been speaking about, and the inadequacy in these commitments and the creative accounting that had taken place. But what we understand in the Sherpas meeting that have taken place in the last few months, some sort of ironing out of differences, at least on climate action, has happened. But when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, the language formulation will be dependent on the leaders' intervention now. Remember that Russia's foreign ministry yesterday said that India was under the pressure of G7 countries to basically take, to project their stance, and also India over the last 2 years has been very neutral about this issue and has maintained that dialogue and diplomacy is the way forward. So what we are looking at is 2 days of packed schedule and projection of India's tact and diplomacy in hammering out a leader's declaration.